the councilman of the 15th District. We're going to hold for a minute unless anybody has a plane to catch or some other thing. Mr. Rosendahl is in the building, and he'll be here shortly. So talk amongst yourselves. Thank you so much.
Should be quick, all right?
Hey, who runs the microphone? February 11th, 2013. It's the Trade and Commerce Tourism Committee, which is so important to our city of Los Angeles. I'm joined by the great councilman of the 11th District, Mr. Rosendahl, and the very great councilman of the 15th, Joe Buscaino. We have, Madam CAO, item number 1.
Yes, under item 1, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the first amendment to a contract with Parsons Constructors, Incorporated, under which this contractor has been serving as the Project Labor Agreement Coordinator for the LAX Capital Improvement Program. This amendment would extend the contract term by 2 years with an option to renew for a third year, would increase compensation by $1.4 million plus $700,000 for a total contract amount that would not exceed $4.2 million, and that would be over a maximum term of 6 years. And the amendment would add provisions for compliance with city restrictions on campaign contributions by city contractors, as well as for compliance with the city's program to encourage the use of minority and women-owned business enterprises. And in a report to the mayor, the CAO has recommended approval of this contract amendment.
Thank you very much. Could the CAO just give us a little good morning?
Good morning, Andrew Mills, CAO office, and in agreement with the summary provided by the CLA, yes, we recommend approval of the proposed First Amendment to Parsons Contractors, Incorporated.
Very good.
We're happy with the contractor. We're happy with the project labor agreement. The main objective is that there are no stoppages with our construction program. In that regard, it's been very successful, so we recommend approval.
And they've been doing this since the beginning of the project? It's an extension?
Correct. That is correct.
And how much have they been compensated for?
The current contract that started in 2010, so far about $2 million over 3 years.
Right.
And we're asking for another about $2.1 million for the next 3 years.
And this is all airport money, not general fund money?
That
and
is
then
correct.
if it's not needed, it returns? The contract's only as good as the need you draft off it?
Yes,
correct?
it is a not-to-exceed contract.
Yeah. Mr. Rosendahl.
Project labor agreement, explain how it's being impacted in this.
Since 1999, we had the project labor agreement with the Builders Trades Union. As I said, the main objective is that they promise us there will be no work stoppages. We promised them that they have continued employment with skilled labor. In addition to that, in fact, there is a local hire component to this. And we have been successful in that regard. About 25% of all the trades actually reside in the city of Los Angeles.
So it's routine, it's within the rules. Is there any issue that I should be concerned about regarding public awareness, transparency, council involvement like we did with some other issues, or is this all within the contract?
No, this is routine. In fact, we're successful in that we're not coming to you. You're not hearing about it. That's actually the objective. It's going very smoothly.
RFP or anything like this?
No, none whatsoever.
That existing contract, we're getting close to finishing Tom Bradley International.
That's great.
It went through commission.
It did, yes.
Good. It's very important. Mr. Buscaino.
No, this is great. Any opportunity we can to support project labor agreements. I had an opportunity, Mr. Chair and Mr. Rosendahl, to see firsthand the great work that these men and women are doing at the new terminal. And any opportunity we can to support project labor agreements, we're in. Thank you.
Good. And this is Parsons, the same Parsons in Pasadena.
Yes, it's a different arm of Parsons,
Right.
but it is the same Parsons.
So that's a good corporation. Okay. Recommend approval.
Without objection.
Next item, Madam CAO.
Under item 2, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval the second amendment to a contract with CDM Smith Incorporated, under which CDM Smith provides environmental, technical, and other consulting services in the preparation of the LAX Specific Plan Amendment Study and the EIR. The amendment would increase compensation authority by $935,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $12.67 million to cover the remaining work to be done by the consultant. And in a report to the mayor, the CAO has recommended approval.
Madam CAO, tell us all we should know.
The Andrew Mills CAO office, the Executive Director for the Department of Airports submits a request for a second amendment to CDM Smith Incorporated, and this organization provides environmental, technical, and consulting services for the specific plan amendment study at LAX. And the increase in funding will allow the contractor to complete the needed tasks for the for the final EIR report. And so, in summary, the contract started out at $8.6 million. There was a first amendment bringing the current total to $11.7 million, and the proposed amendment at $935,000 will bring the total not to exceed $12.7 million. The department has been pleased with the work, and most of the services and the tasks are approximately 95% done of all of the tasks that this contractor has been working on, so we recommend approval.
Just a couple of questions. For the record, state your name.
Diego Alvarez with Lawa Planning.
You used to work for the mayor, right?
Yes, I did.
And your mayor, you had no gray hair. Now you got gray hair.
I got it.
I'm concerned with the airport department.
Silver, Tom. It's silver.
All right.
Gray.
Oh, yeah. I got it.
I can tell.
You got Grecian 24 there, Joe. I can tell. Diego, I know you're doing a great job at the airport. Thank you. It's a question I wanted to ask. Does anything have to do with the circulation transit planning for the future, for not just the airfields, but for the streets and roadways?
The study certainly looked at the ground transportation solutions, and we examined 5 different scenarios for ground transportation, all of which incorporated the updates that have occurred since 2006, including Measure R passing, the construction of the Crenshaw light rail line that will go past airport, and we've proposed solutions for those.
What is the solution? Here's the green line, and here's the Crenshaw line. And the green line, and they're going to meet at Aviation and
Aviation and Century Boulevard.
Right. Near the Carolina Pines used to be there. Anybody remember the Carolina Pines? Yeah. Was that a nightclub or a restaurant?
Bowling alley and a nightclub.
And a nightclub. Okay, not a restaurant. Okay, we won't tell you what kind. I remember. Very good. Okay, so just drove by, like the neon, that's all. Okay. So how far is these trains going to get into the airfield?
Well,
area.
Currently, Metro's only planned facility is that intersection of the Crenshaw line and the green line at Century and Aviation. So this study looked at how could we get passengers from there and from other remote airport facilities into the central terminal area. Where we ended up on, with the staff recommended alternative, was to construct a people mover that would go all the way out to Manchester Square, which is at the corner of Century and Aviation, pick up people who would be at the consolidated rent-a-car facility.
Have you been to Portland?
I'm sorry.
Portland?
I have not been. Not
Any airport people been to Portland? They have is that a people mover, or what do they have in Portland that brings people to the airport? They have something. It's just.
I think. They have a light rail line that goes to downtown.
Could you make a lighter rail line that runs from that location in?
Well,
because this is the biggest issue that the city, I do believe, that when Los Angeles goes to heaven, they'll give Mulholland a pass, even though people don't like us in Owens Valley, but without water, we're nothing.
That's right.
But the transportation engineers will get questioned by whomever's at the gates. I say St. Peter, but it may be somebody else, because we sold the right-of-ways to the red car, and then the airport didn't have the rail line go into the airport, which I was told years ago that it was the master plan they didn't want the master plan to be dictated by the rail line, and that's why they didn't do it. And also the representative for the RTD, which predated the MTA, was a South Bay representative. And there was a lot of jobs in the South Bay that could take that transit. This is before the Berlin Wall fell. When the Cold War, I don't know when you were around in the Cold War. How old were you? Still in high school? No. When the Cold War ended, they lost 200,000 jobs in Southern California, aviation and all the other things. That all being said, I think it's a big issue, and I'm just saying, and I know I speak with Gina Marie from time to time, and I know my colleague to the left is ferociously concerned about this, that transit get right into the terminal. When you go to Heathrow, you get off the plane and you go down and you go down and you go down, and either you take a tube into London or you take a rail into the Sussex or whatever another town is, or Nottingham or something. So this is a big issue. Is this addressing that at all?
Well, there's two things. So one is, what is the airport connectivity between our facilities and Metro and our remote facilities? So as I mentioned, we have some facilities that, as part of our recommended alternative, will be outside of the CTA. And we plan to tie these all in with a automated people mover that would be above grade, that would go.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do as chairman, just to let you know. I'm just thinking this right out loud. It's like an audible. And Mr. Rosendahl, I'd like
I'm going to comment,
one item only, the extension of the Green Line, the Crenshaw Line, the Central Terminal, whatever. One item, get MTA here.
Special.
You like that?
Dan is brilliant,
Oh,
what
okay.
he's saying. When he used the word ferocious, I'm even more rabid than ferocious. Both the Crenshaw Line and the Green Line should go into the Central Terminal, hook into the people mover. Story one. Story two, I do want the Crenshaw Line to have a stop in Westchester. We're working with Mark Ridley Thomas. Lamarck Park, absolutely. Westchester, absolutely. And that, too, end up right in the Central Terminal where Gina Marie has her office now. And then we do the people mover. That's my dream of the connectivity. As Mr. Labange was saying, the history of the Green Line is rather vague as to why it never made the airport. We had heard a million different stories about what stopped it, some of the same similar ones to Dulles, where it couldn't get to Dulles and all that stuff. But the bottom line is we're very forward-thinking now. You've been great over there, and we have no complaints. With the modernization, yes. The expansion's another story, but we'll deal with it. But I just want to go on record to take Mr. Labange's comment to that next level. Crenshaw Line, Green Line together, Central Terminal, people mover.
Right. So if I could just say, so what's in our plan also leaves open locations for stations, for light rail stations, both at the site that they're at now, which would be serviced by the people mover, at the intermodal transportation facility, which is behind the Century Hotels, and also at the east end of the Central Terminal area, where passengers, if Metro decided to build the light rail line all the way to the CTA, they would connect to the people mover for those folks that didn't want to walk to their station. They could go up
Let me ask you a
level.
question. You watched the Super Bowl?
No, I didn't.
You didn't. Well, anyway, San Francisco had the ball on the, you watched it? They had the ball 4 times in the last 2 minutes on the 5-yard line, and they didn't score because they didn't call an audible. We're going to call an audible. We're going to score. We're going to get the rail line in. Mr. Rosendahl said it. We're going to figure it out no matter what, if we're going to bring every head together in here and knock it out, because more people criticize, although I went to, confessing everything, Joe, I went to church last night with my family, and someone walked up and said, "Thank you very much, Councilman. I like what you do, but I do not like your fiscal policies." I mean, they said, "I like what you do. You work hard for the people," but they didn't like my fiscal policies. And they also could have punched me for not having the train line into the airport. You know, so this is a concept. People walk up, they say that all the time. So I would recommend we approve this. But I think we should really look at it as a committee and deep down, especially you representing the port and all that transit that goes, because there's a connectivity between the harbor and the roadways to the shipping of FedEx. Joe, question.
I have 2 questions, just for the record, okay?
I'll defer to Bill.
Please, no, go ahead.
No, it's something that, I like the idea of holding a special committee meeting on this specific issue of transportation. Perhaps my suggestion would be to have it in the Westchester area, or perhaps even
I think it would be
in the LAX area.
if we did that. And if you want to make that a motion, I'll second it, or you'll make it whatever.
Let me decide. I was thinking, here's how you get things done in City Hall. You go to I was thinking of going over to the MTA building in there, because they got, they're building a line, right?
Mhm.
We go to their house, we get into their house, then we take over. Okay?
Here are my two
All right,
questions for you,
here's the question.
just for the record, okay? Obviously, the group is called Camp, Dresser, and McGee.
Right.
Incorporated. Okay. And the question is simple. Is this amendment meant to compensate them for work that is already done or for future spa-related work?
No, this is for the work that's going forward.
Okay. Next question.
And
What
if I
happened-
could just correct
Sure.
that, I think there was a name change
It
that's
was-
included as part of this motion, so it's Camp Dresser McKee Smith.
Okay.
They're
The,
CDM Smith going forward.
Yeah, the contract began under Camp Dresser McGee, and in December of 2011, the corporate headquarters changed it to CDM Smith.
Are they here in the room?
They are.
Yes.
God, where are they? Come on up. Okay, and the next one, what happens next to the SPAS process after City Council considers the matter? It pretty well falls into what Mr.
Yeah, well, there are a couple steps even in anticipation of that. So the BOAC, as you know, adopted and selected an alternative a couple weeks ago, last week.
Right.
And so two things happen. It's got to go to here to the city for approval, so that means going to Planning Commission and then eventually going to the City Council. And it also goes to the county as well. So we have some follow-up there. Once it's completed, if the council were to adopt it and the county were to agree that it was consistent, then that would be the end of this program level piece, and we would initiate project level environmental work and additional design and construction to get each individual component that's included in the package of the alternative.
Great.
And see them through. So there's still quite a bit of public process going forward, but I imagine that that would move probably under a different contractual vehicle.
Beautiful, okay. Good morning. Your name?
Robin Igems with CDM Smith.
And tell us about your organization.
CDM Smith is a global engineering firm. We've been working with LAX for about 25 years. We're the contractor that worked on the master plan EIS-EIR. We also worked with LAWA staff on the South Airfield EIR, the Crossfield Taxiway EIR, the Bradley West EIR, and the Central Utility Plant Replacement Project EIR. And we've been the prime contractor on the specific plan amendment study and EIR as well.
And the prime contractor, what kind of compensation are we giving them?
The total contract value right now is $11.7 million. We have a large team of subcontractors that assists us. We've achieved about a 52% MWBE participation on this contract. Our goal was 25%. So,
By that you mean minority?
minority and women-owned businesses.
So you've doubled even what you thought you would do on that?
Yes.
And it's been public and vetted, and there's nobody protesting under any circumstances?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, Mr. Rosenthal, thank you. Mr. Buscaino. He's good, so recommend approval. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll go, when are these going to be in council?
Next week?
I want them in as soon as possible because I want forward progress at the Los Angeles Airport.
Yes, CDM Smith will be in council on Wednesday, February 20th.
Great.
Good, okay, good. Next item.
Yes, under item 3, the Board of Airport Commissioners has submitted a report for approval on a new contract with Toshiba Business Solutions USA to provide comprehensive managed print services that includes equipment, service, supplies, and support for all of Los Angeles World Airports for a term of 3 years and an option to renew for an additional 2 years. For a total contract amount not to exceed $2.5 million.
Basically, this is the copy machines, the printing machines, the technology that you use to communicate in print matter. Please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bill Kreitz with the CAO's office. Yes, to add to what the CLA has mentioned, one of the reasons that, there are several reasons that we're recommending approval of this, not the least of which is that this is a recommendation by the department's IT Governance Committee. They're looking at an estimated 18% savings by consolidating and by going with another company who was selected through a competitive process. They also want to avoid any break in services because this equipment, as you can imagine, is very important for the department. So for those reasons, we're in favor of this. Well, basically, that's it.
Good. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, the 18% that you just mentioned, cheaper, how did that come about? And are you consolidating with the harbor and with the city?
Karen Tozer, Procurement Services, LAWA. We anticipate the 18% savings will come through a reduction or a right-sizing of the copier fleet, elimination of a lot of extra equipment, plus the managed print services, Toshiba Business Systems, will be not only responsible for providing the equipment, but all the service and all the supplies, including the toner, with the exception of paper. So through that and through some soft costs to LAWA staff, we anticipate over the 5 years we will have at least an 18% savings.
Yeah, but I know that, and I'm happy about that, but can this also happen for the harbor and also happen for the city? We want coordination among the departments to have an overall saving, be it general fund money or proprietary money.
Well, currently, LAWA leases our existing multifunctional printers through a piggyback contract with General Services. General Services has been very interested in our managed print service project, and we've been keeping them informed all the way through. How they might procure managed print services in the future would be up to the
Mr. LaBonge, Mr. Chair, we've been talking about this in budget, of consolidating all these so that we can save money overall by the proprietary and the city cooperating on getting rid of, things that they don't need, paper when they don't need it, that kind of thing. So if it's possible, Mr. Chair, could we ask them to coordinate with the others and be part of a report back that we talked about in budget, where the city's budget could save money, same time the airport and the harbor, by this coordination. We're also talking about DWP potential.
Right, I like that, but I want to, who in the CAO office, who's person who could do that's a management thing. It's good if you have management, good management or good things. Here's the practice of a department, and I love the piggyback idea because some departments have that ability. Who oversees this? Is there someone in charge of this?
For this particular, Bill Kreitz of the CAO's office, for this particular equipment, I imagine it's General Services, and we could check.
But I want someone in the CAO's office says, my job is to make sure that departments are doing the right thing, and what Mr. Rosendahl said, try to, coordinate. Efficiency, I mean, that's so important. Here's Mr. Efficiency.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. Bill Koenig, CAO's office. There isn't anybody specifically in the CAO's office that would handle that, but we can communicate your concerns to General Services and request that they respond back to the committee with some ideas and concepts after they've discussed it with the airports and potentially other departments.
Yeah, I just think the concept...
This is a similar thing that's been going on over the years.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. When we save money, the opportunity to catch a fast freight of a piggyback, it makes a lot of sense. But because sometimes if you put everything on one train gets derailed, you're in trouble. So you have to have multiple relationships, and that's what I like about our harbor department, water power, and airport department. They're more innovative because they have that flexibility. And I think that's what originally our founding mothers and fathers of the 1925 Charter said. That's what they want to have, some independence on that.
So there are certain similarities with some of the other contracts the departments have, such as communications. We've piggybacked onto federal contracts and/or state of California contracts, wherever it's worked for those operations.
Just someone's tough like you watching it to make sure it's being done right.
We'll communicate.
We don't want to wake up and say they all broke down for 2 months and no one called us back. That hasn't happened, but just so we look at that. So you're okay, Mr. Rosendahl? Recommend approval?
I'm good.
Thank you. So ordered.
Thank you.
Now, we only have 2 more items, correct? And one is in public session, one's in private, closed session, executive session.
Well, first, they're both, items 4 and 5 are 2 council motions asking for the same thing. So you might want to take them together. They're both asking for reports to the committee on the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Panel on Airport Security. And the report...
What I'll do is I'll take them both together, but I want to ask anybody from the departments if they're feeling anything that they should need to be in executive session, please hold and let us know that. And we should go from there. Does that sound good, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Buscaino?
Yes.
May
Okay.
I just say that the report that's been released by the mayor to the public has been redacted, and so that's the report that you have on your desk.
Right.
And that's what the deputy mayor will report on if you wish to go into closed session on more sensitive details.
Yeah, well, there are some
The
security
city attorney
details.
and the
Right.
I would suggest
mayor
we would
can
go
help
into
us.
closed session on the report itself. There are some security details.
Got it. This is your report.
See it right there.
Well, the committee chair didn't get one. You got one, Bill. We didn't get one.
I got this.
Wow, I didn't get it. What is it, out at the
There
newsstand
were
down on there
There
on
were
the
three.
main?
Right there, Tommy.
Okay,
There were
good.
three out
No.
there.
I didn't see it. I
Oh,
just
it's in
saw
your,
it.
there.
You weren't
I
left out.
redact what I just said, okay? Okay, we found it. There's a lot of paperwork here.
And I would echo the comments of Councilman Buscaino, sir, Mr. Chairman, that to get into the substance, we would have to be in closed session.
All right, good. So let's do this. Let's give a general overview, then we'll go into closed session. Thank you.
We'll take
And ask any questions you want.
That's beautiful. No, I like
Okay,
Well,
Madam Deputy Mayor.
good morning. Eileen Decker, Deputy Mayor for Homeland Security and Public Safety. Good morning. As members of council are aware, in the end of 2010, the mayor named a blue ribbon panel to look into security at the airport. He charged them with looking into 5 areas: law enforcement, counterterrorism and homeland security, fire, IT, and emergency management. A rather large and distinguished group of individuals were put together, and they commenced work in approximately January of 2011. They submitted their report in June, approximately June of 2011, at which point the federal government, and particularly TSA, had to review the report to determine, for security reasons, whether and to what extent it needed to be redacted for public release. By early November, that report was redacted, and that is the report you have on your tables. And the report issued a number of recommendations that the airport was aware of, had time to comment on, and have been working, in my opinion, diligently on implementing the recommendations and moving forward on all of them. In general terms, I can say all of the recommendations are either in progress or completed. To get into more specifics, I believe we'd have to be in closed session.
Very good. So, you want an open session question?
Just a comment before we go into closed session. I just had an opportunity to read the report, and the 2 greatest things we got out of it was the creation of the deputy executive director position that oversees security improvements for Alakon here. Had a chance to meet with him. And the second was to forge a better relationship between the Los Angeles Police Department and LAWA PD, and the recent selection of Chief Pat Gannon, who my mentor in the LAPD side. His relationships, 30 years worth of experience and relationships with the LAPD. I know he's going to bring the tools necessary to forge a better relationship with the LAPD. In addition, working with Mr. Alakon here, he's got the skills, knowledge, and ability, and the time that I spent with him on the airfield to make these security improvements and put them in place to ensure that LAX is the safest airport in the world. And with that, those are just my comments in this item specifically. Thank you.
Well, Councilman, speaking on behalf of the mayor, we couldn't agree more with your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl for comments.
Yes, let me just say ditto to what he said. Perfect. X-rays and body scans. It's in the news. First, we had one that a lot of people felt violated one's personal sensibilities. And now we have a new one, at least in the national media, there's a new one that's been discussed that's less invasive. Where are we on that whole screening of the individual going in?
Certainly. Good morning. I'm Arif Ali Khan, Deputy Executive Director for Homeland Security and Law Enforcement, and thank you very much for your kind comments. Councilman Rosendahl, the screening with the use of the scanners looking for anomalies and other explosives that can be concealed on the body is under the purview of the Transportation Security Administration. LAWA, Police Department, et cetera, we really have no role in that other than when they find something. But what I can tell you, which has been publicly disclosed by the TSA, is that at LAX they are taking out the one of the types of scanners that creates the X-ray image that is shown to a TSA officer in another room to see if there's an anomaly, and switching them all to another machine. I apologize for forgetting the particular name and model, but it enables just a sort of a red light, green light if an anomaly is detected by the machine. So it has a lesser privacy concern than the other machines have had in the past. In addition, which is very important for LAX on both the operational and security side, is that the throughput, the amount of time it takes to go through these more recent scanners is much faster than the others. And that helps with people not having to wait in line. And then also what is our typical concern is we want to get people through so there's not a congregation of people that could be a potential target.
You know, Chairman LaHood of the House Oversight Committee on Transportation, Republican, wanted to, or suggested, and others have even put in motions, to have private versus TSA in competition, or pick one over the other. Where are we in the city on LaHood's idea, and are we moving to look at options other than TSA, or are we happy?
I'm not sure I'm in a position to comment on that other than, yes, there is a program under TSA known as the Security Partnership Program, or SPP. You know, the airport's always looking at all options. We do have a very positive relationship with the TSA, in my realm in particular, with respect to making sure that the airport is as safe and secure as possible, and also working very closely with them on the regulatory side. But on that particular program, I really am not in a position to comment about whether the airport is considering or going forward with any of that.
Good. Okay, so we want to thank you. If you want to stay where you are, we're going to go into executive session, this committee, based on that. And is the city attorney here? So if we want to join at the table, so make sure we do everything right. Thank everybody else for the other business. Let's, sergeants, prepare us for executive.
Make the announcement for the, make the announcement.
Like the city attorney does? Yeah, they do that.
Okay,
we're on.
Back on the record.
Yeah, all right. Mr. City Attorney, please report to us on the issue of the executive session of this committee on this issue. Thank you.
All right. The committee may recess to close session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, subsection A, in order to consult with the Deputy Mayor for Homeland Security and Public Safety and the Los Angeles World Airport's Office of the Deputy Executive Director of Law Enforcement and Homeland Security in relation to matters posing threats to the security of LAWA facilities.
Your name for the record?
Ray Ilgunas, Assistant City Attorney.
Good. There you go off the air, if you would, please. Okay, we're back on the air. We just completed executive session on this issue. We're going to note and file this. We're going to schedule this to a time appropriate that we could have a robust discussion in executive session. I'll check with the President of City Council. Make sure all of you are available at a convenient time in the future. We thank you for your commitment to Los Angeles and the World Airport. And this completes today's meeting unless there's anything else to be brought in front. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, great, Kelly.
Great, Tommy. Thank you. That was great.